Pay Your People Better, May 28th, 2026. Every time. So today I'm going to be coming and going. I don't know. I'm going to be going back to my physical therapist. This was already booked weeks ahead of time. I definitely need it because I'm feeling the effects of not being good at doing this exercise stuff. And so I was thinking, okay, it may be a good idea then, because I don't know exactly how long it's going to take between now and the finishing of this next sort of like battery of physical therapy appointments. I think I'm only going to get like 6. I told them that like if I get to 12 again, that'd be great. If not, whatever. But I've got a yoga mat in my Amazon cart right now. Yeah, I know I shouldn't be buying things from Amazon, but it's kind of the only way I can really do things here without trying to wander all over the fucking place and figure shit out. This is an old thing of espresso powder that I threw some water in. And so what I did, I didn't put it in this one, I put it in the other one. So I kind of like stuck my finger in it and swirled it around a bit, and it was like, oh, okay, it needs significantly more water. But I dumped some into the other cold brew. So what I'm going to do here is just, because I want it filtered by the actual coffee grounds as well, ideally. So I'm just topping it up with a little bit more water, because water is the universal solvent. Ah, shit. Might have been too much water, though. But nevertheless, whatever, it works. Sticking it in the fridge, because it was just like a desiccated puck. Wow, I used the right word right then. That was cool. I like that. It's cool when you use a good word accidentally and it's correct. That's always a nice feeling. Hell, I'm going to write that down. I'm trying to be more, stuff about the words and things. Positives. And, gratitude. That's the word. Gratitude. I'm so bad at gratitude, I don't even know what the fucking word is. Used, quote unquote, desiccated on accident correctly. And it's approximately, I want to say, what, 4:30? 4:35? 4:35 p.m. p.m. 5/28/2026. Gotta have a little bit of gratitude. You know, mental health is cringe, as Innuendo Studios has stated so very aptly. I haven't even made my coffee today. I was like thinking about showering, and then, I was busy doing other stuff, which is actually kind of the reason why I was making this video in the first place. I'm going to be moving away from Wells Fargo as my bank. And the reason is because now they're starting to randomly charge me. It seems random anyway. They're starting to charge me $15 a month, which is ridiculous. It used to be 10, but from what I understood is that as long as I'm having a dollar move from as long as I'm having a dollar move into my savings account every day, which I've been doing since like, I want to say March or February of like 2014. So for 12 years, I've been doing this. I got the money initially when I was homeless. And it was a check from Pasadena City College because it was the Pell Grant. And I was like, okay, cool. now I can, afford stuff. I couldn't afford to like get housing at the time because it was only like $1,400, and I had no job, no prospects, nothing, and so all I did was buy better homeless stuff while also saving what I could so that I could use it for other things as needed. Like occasionally I would go to Carl's Jr. because there's a Carl's Jr. right across the street from PCC, and occasionally they would have like 2 for $5 big Carl's. Like, that's a lot of fucking food. And so it helped me, sort of establish myself. I was trying to get a computer, but then that computer just did not work. It wasn't even the right computer. Like, the one that I got in the box was not the one I ordered. Which pissed me off significantly. And so, it's like, I ended up not spending that money because, it's like, what's the fucking point? And, through the entire time that I've lived in Los Angeles, since then, I've always had, trouble maintaining enough money. But one thing that I never had an issue with was service fees at all, ever. I had never had any. Let me take my socks off. Kind of itching. And so, I'll put on my Crocs. And then I want to say it was like sometime in January I saw a monthly fee, and I was like, what? So I looked back and I saw 2 of them, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I was just trying to figure it out, and then, like, shit happened, and then, I think it was actually February, which was probably right around the time that, then I got into moving in here, and so I hadn't thought of it. Well, or I didn't notice it or whatever, because, like, there was the whole, like, getting the government relief thing and, paying for the fucking hotel and all kinds of shit. So I think it just flew under the radar because there was one that was in December, and then there was also one in January, but then there wasn't one in February, but then there was one in March, and then not in April, and then now in May. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? So I hit up the chat option on Wells Fargo Online. They're like, you need at least $1,500 just chilling. I think it was originally like $300. Or you have to have regular direct deposits. And coincidentally enough, it's greater than the amount that you can get from general relief here in California, or at least in LA. The general relief amount is $220, and I think I think it's significantly greater. I think it's like $500 a month. If I wanted to get like the like low income whatever starter account or whatever the fuck it is, I think it's $250. Which I'm just like, fuck you guys so much. So the first thing I did after I learned all that was I looked into a credit union, and there was a purple link. And that purple link happens to be the LA credit union, the Los Angeles. It's a federal credit union. And of course, federal anythings nowadays is finicky and all that shit, but I'd rather deal with that than Wells Fargo at this point. As much as I hate this current government, they won't be here forever. This administration, this regime really, will not be here forever. They may be here for a lot longer than we want them to be. And I live in Los Angeles, and I just learned that they're trying to fuck with, mostly incoming flights to international airports in sanctuary cities. And the fact that they can even do that, or they're even thinking of that shit, is all kinds of fucked up. But that said, I'm just like, okay, so I'm in the process right now, more or less, of waiting for the LA Credit Union thing to go through. I don't know if it's gonna, because they had to do a credit pull, and I don't know if they're gonna do a pull through Experian. It looked like everything was fine, but it's just kind of waiting for something. So I don't know if it has to do a credit pull through Experian or Equifax rather, I will probably have to unfreeze my account again because I want to move away from Wells Fargo as quickly as I can at this point. I mean, the only reason I even have index funds in the first place is because I was getting jack fucking squat. I'm getting like literally like 0.1%, I think is what it was, or less actually. I was getting cents. I was getting cent amounts, like 1 or 2 pennies when I had like actual money saved up in my savings account. I had over $1,000 and I was getting pennies. Now I'm getting more pennies from the index funds, but also those are increasing in size. Granted, they're fluctuating constantly because of this war. This is banana pudding that I got from Kroger, I want to say. 2 cups of milk, mix the stuff together. I do it for like 5 minutes with the Cuisinart, and then it's thick as fuck. So if I wanted to, I could eat it pretty much right then, but I like to fridge it at least a couple of hours. These are overnight. And it's exactly what you think banana pudding is going to taste like if you were going to just like go to the store and buy it. It's perfectly fine. It's like $1 for one of those packets. And then, 2 cups of milk, which is like maybe 50 cents for all that. And like the calorie count's not terrible. We're talking maybe a total of 500 calories. I was off, by the way. Like milk has fewer calories than I thought. Let's see, what does it say? A cup. Right? 1 cup, 240 mils, 160 calories. That's not bad. Because it's also nice and filling. So if you just guzzle 2 cups of milk, sure, it's 320 calories in a day, but you'll be full for a bit. So yeah, I'm attempting to go through the process of getting through to this LA credit union. Because really, I don't need, like, right now specifically, the main issue I might have, and I'll just have to figure it out, is because I might not even have a problem doing this, because they'll send me a debit card and everything. I already needed to redo this debit card anyway. I'll just have to make some changes, with things like the phone bill, the internet. The internet is based off of my bank account anyway, so I'll just have to, because it's an automatic draft from the bank account, and I'll just have to, detach my my Wells Fargo account from my index funds from Fidelity, and then I'll just use the new one. But like, I don't really need to go to Wells Fargo related stuff very often. One of the things that I do is I go to the Wells Fargo, I go to the ATM, and I withdraw the money from the general relief, and then immediately afterwards, I just stick it into the Wells Fargo account. Now, I don't know if that's going to work with this. I'll just try it and see. If everything works out, because I get paid on the 4th of every month with food stamps and with general relief. And so, it's like, I've got enough money in the account to buy, like, I'm going to need a yoga mat, because I just, going back to the physical therapy thing, especially because I'm doing it later today, I can't always remember to go downstairs to do shit. And I don't really have anything right now. Like, I have a blanket, but I haven't washed it. And, having to wash that thing over and over again would be $4.50 basically. Because it's $4 to wash and dry. It's actually $4.25. Which is one of the reasons why I'm just like, and then, I also, because I was like, well, if I'm going to be moving into this, and then, there's also the fact that there was, we got a notification on our doors the other day about, like fire alarms going off because somebody's scooter battery ignited or whatever the fuck it did. or was smoking or something, who knows, that like all bikes must be placed in the bike area no matter what. I was like, well, I have a bike, but good to know. And so I was like, okay, so the building before I even got here had somebody set an intentional fire in their room, and apparently that flooded multiple floors, potentially even mine. That's right, there's a hole in this pocket. I should really get back to sewing, but it's whatever. It's not like I use it for these shorts for anything. And so they had already talked about the fact that I should probably get renter's insurance anyway. And so I was like, all right, let's go to AAA and just see. And so that's I've done the payment and everything. The crazy thing is I'm online. I'm going through like just the verification process of just like checking shit out. And I get like a text notification, then I get an email, and it was just like, okay, finish. Text within 5 seconds. Email within another 5 seconds. Phone call within another 5 seconds after that. I was like, what the fuck? So yeah, got that settled. It's per year. I will most definitely have to change my payment method because it's based on the current bank. But honestly, I should have moved to a credit union sooner. But the fact that it cost me $65 to learn this lesson, thanks ADHD, and also just mostly just ADHD, because I was gonna be like, and just mostly forgetting. That's where it comes from. That's where the forgetting comes from. It's from the ADHD. It's like I got movies on my phone that I want to watch, and then I'll just forget that they're there. And I'm like, shit, I should have watched that. Like, I want to watch Dirty Dancing later. I don't think I've ever seen it. Saw Clue yesterday for the first time, and then kind of semi-rewatched The Big Lebowski. I just had it off in the background. Clue was okay. It's not like a favorite or anything. Like, I get why but like, it's a little too cartoony at times. And while I understand, it's like, it's very much an 80s film, in that it is cartoony, real life, but also with a bit of the like adult aspects. There's like the murder mystery, and then there's also a bit of sexualization of the maid. But it's just like some aspects of the film don't hold up in my mind, and so I'm like, it's not. It's a solid 6. I'm not going to say, it's great. It's not like a 7 or 8 or 9 or anything. Because again, and this is through the lens of now, of 40 years later, because that movie came out in 85 and I came out in 81. And, times change. We don't need to keep everything the same as it was. Weekend at Bernie's was also a thing. And I don't think I've seen any of those films, but I'm like, better yet, let's go Revenge of the Nerds. Revenge of the Nerds is not a movie type. It's not a type of movie that we need to be making or otherwise, what's the fucking word I'm looking for? Generally just supporting, praising. That was the word I was looking for. We shouldn't be praising a movie like Revenge of the Nerds. We can look back on our childhood and say, man, that was a childhood. The fact that I was able to watch Revenge of the Nerds with my uncle, which was the case for me. Was it an enjoyable time that when that happened? Sure. But I'm not going to say we need to repeat that. I don't need to then, let's say my sister somehow for some fucking reason has kids, because as far as I know, she doesn't want any. I need to talk to her anyway, just so I can get her social, so I can make her a beneficiary of my not that much money. So, if, let's say, me and my sister somehow managed to have a much closer relationship than we currently do, because right now we're obviously separated by states, and we're also separated by significant age and then just general life. And so if we were to have any kind of relationship, I don't know what would cause that, but whatever, if, let's say, she were to have a kid, I'm not going to throw on Revenge of the fucking Nerds with her 8-year-old kid, you know? Now, let's say I start wanting to rewatch a movie that I really like let's say Pitch Black. I'm not going to throw Pitch Black up with an 8-year-old kid. It's not going to happen. Pitch Black's one of my favorite films. The Incredibles, I'll definitely throw up because that movie's fucking incredible. Yeah. Jurassic Park, same thing. Fantastic film. Not playing it in front of a kid, though. Die Hard, not happening. Airheads, probably not. Let's see. Blade, definitely not. The Mummy, no. Most of the movies that I like, I have a folder on my computer that is labeled fun stuff in my videos section. And it's all this stuff that, it may be a serious movie in some sense or another, but it is fun for me. It's a lighthearted watch in some way or another, like Rogue One, for instance. Rogue One isn't exactly like a comedy. I mean, it's a Star Wars film. And it's one of the best. I would say it's probably number 2. Now, the real question is which number 1 and what's number 3? Number 1 is Empire, of course. And number 3, people are not going to like this one, but The Force Awakens. I really like Force Awakens. It's a really good film. It's just a well-constructed film. And while there are aspects of the film that don't make sense, I get it, when, spoiler, Han dies, and then the next time, Leia, we see Leia or whatever, Rey and her hug instead of her and Chewie first, which I get the reasoning behind that criticism. But nevertheless, I mean, I even see why some of the things were the way that they were in The Last Jedi. There's even and the reason why I even brought up Dirty Dancing and why I was bringing up movies in the first place is there's a channel on YouTube called Pop Culture Detective, and he talks about movies and he kind of breaks down some of the thematic aspects that are more in line with some of the things that are going on in society. One of the first videos I ever saw of his, because most of his are video essays that are 20-30 minutes long, was talking about rape, especially prison rape as a joke. They make that joke even in children's shows, animated cartoon children's shows. Don't drop the soap. There's always things that are, I think SpongeBob made that joke. It's funny that I would be the standards and practices guy at our radio station, but in a way I feel like it would work for me because I know that I'm a vulgar motherfucker, but there are some things that maybe we shouldn't say as well. And because I am so vulgar, but I'm also aware of that fact and also aware of what may be good or bad. Some people just want to run headlong into stuff, and they do the ask for forgiveness, not for permission methodology of things. Whether they're doing it on purpose or not is generally irrelevant for one, but they may or may not be doing it on purpose. And people like that, especially if they're not doing it on purpose, they're just kind of that way, they need people to rein them in more so. Whereas I had other friends who worked in the radio station who would come to me first and be like, do you think this would be appropriate or inappropriate? But and sometimes it might depend on context, but then I would also be learning shit too in the process because, we're at school and, I'm also learning things about the world in ways that I hadn't previously learned about. And then, I've learned about stuff about the world since then The fact that fucking butter pecan ice cream is essentially an act of rebellion from slaves. Like, the fact that they couldn't have vanilla ice cream because vanilla is too pure and the black people aren't pure enough, or whatever the fuck it is, because racism is that fucking stupid. And it's just like, oh, so they made it a whole ass new fucking ice cream because pecan trees grow in the South. Texas state tree, for instance. And just throw in some extra butter because you got plenty of cows, I'm sure, because you're probably milking them motherfuckers all the time, churning that butter and shit. There was a great article that I read, and it was from Imgur. Because, why? Because they were talking, the post was, and unfortunately I cannot remember the man's name, and I should be able to, but like when this man was lynched, he was then dried, he was desiccated, and then skinned to then be turned into fucking purses. Like, that's fucked. That is fucked. There's no other word for that. That's fucked. I mean, sure, you could be like depraved, amoral, blah, 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 whatever, aberrant. You could go on and on with the number of that's a bad thing syllables. But holy fucking shit, man. And then somebody had posted that about the vanilla and the buttercream, the butter pecan thing. And it's just like, oh, wow, okay. And going back to the pop culture detective thing, he's talking about the fact that, like, we use fun little rape jokes when we're talking about, like, men who do bad things. It's just like, maybe we shouldn't be doing that. Maybe we should not be saying shit like that. We shouldn't be putting that in cartoons. We shouldn't be putting it in movies. We don't need to be making that joke. That joke is played out. Make a different kind of joke entirely. And especially as somebody who was witness to jail rape, not prison rape, because I wasn't in prison, I was in jail, but you could call it prison rape. I was witness to that. That's not something that people should be experiencing, whether they are the direct victim or indirect victim. Because I will tell you, the reason why they do that shit isn't just for the person that they do it to. It's so other people fucking know to stay in line. It's a psychological tactic that nobody should be using. And in fact, the Nazi, the fucking white supremacist that was in the jail with me was like, that's fucked up. What? And, it's like, it's not like I can do anything about, living, sleeping next to a white supremacist, because the way that the inmate, and these are the inmates that do this, by the way. I will at least credit the LAPD that when they put you into the dorm areas, that you get your assigned bed and it's whatever. All right. But that's not the bed you sleep in. The bed you sleep in is the one that is determined by the inmates. Now, I will say that the police are not doing their job by discouraging that kind of behavior. Because what they do then is they say, okay, now we're going to shuttle everybody around, and they're going to, the Latinos are going to stay here, and the blacks are going to stay over here with the Asians, and the whites are going to be in between, basically. And it's just like, that's not supposed to be a thing. That shouldn't be a thing. And it wasn't a thing when we were in, like, what they call the pods, which was the medical area, because, like, if you had any kind of medical issue, whether it was psychological, and as long as you weren't, like, a danger to yourself or others, if you had some kind of medical issue, or, whether it was, physical or psychological, they would put you in the pods. The problem with the pods, they were about this bright 24/7. And that sucked. But there was no racial, there was no racial, like, segregationing off. There was no sectioning off. There was no black table. There was no, or black and Asian table, basically. There was no whites only table. There was no Latinos only table. People just ate where they needed to eat. They slept where they were supposed to sleep. And that was it. and they sat around and talked about their cases and shit wherever they wanted to. But you couldn't do that. The whole thing was fucking stupid. And so, like I said, to their credit, but asterisk. And so, going back to the Pop Culture Detective, he has shorts as well. Now, shorts in general aren't the best source of information, especially if you're scrolling. Like, if you're choosing to view the short, if you're choosing to view the video or whatever, but it's the format, the scroll format, that's the thing that's most problematic when it comes, because you're not making choices, you're allowing the choices to happen to you. Now, sure, I've found good material through that method. I do my best not to scroll all fucking day. There was a day the other day where I was just like only on one channel and I was just going through all of his posts. But I was specifically choosing his channel and going from like the oldest to the newest. Like I wanted to see all of his content. He's an MMA fighter. His name's Bear. And I wanted to see where he introduced the NPC. And then I found the NPC. Now, granted, as far as I'm aware, the YouTube stuff is the afterthought for most people when they put it on shorts, because most of the time it's going up on TikTok. However, I don't have TikTok anymore, so. But he was talking about Dirty Dancing and how it was a movie very much about abortion, especially the subplot that was associated with it and everything. And I was just like, if I've seen that film, I don't remember. And so I was like, you know what? Maybe I should see that film. It's a late 80s film where abortion is technically legal because of, Roe v. Wade being passed. However, post Roe v. Wade, there was significant conservative effort to overturn it, and they've been doing that ever since, and hence why it happened during. The funny thing is, people say, "Oh, well, why did Biden's administration overturn Roe v. Wade if Democrats are so great?" It's like, well, for one, Biden had nothing to do with that, and two, it had everything to do with the conservative justices that are on the court. And also the 50 years of conservative effort to have it overturned in the first place. And part of that being, and this is why I'm not a good strategist, but like, when you create precedent, if you immediately start creating precedent soon after a decision like that is made, that then starts to lead into the potential of other things happening later on. Hence, looking at the Voting Rights Act and Article 2 getting fucking overturned recently, and now we can go back to Jim Crow just like that. Because that's essentially what is happening with the whole anti-discrimination movement. The anti-discrimination movement is not the liberal side. It's not the progressive side. It's the conservative side, because they think they're being discriminated against. And so they're using, like, when people talk about racism towards white people, you can't be racist towards white people. The reason why you can't be racist towards white people is the same reason why you can't have a Holocaust towards Nazis. It doesn't work that way. It's a one-way trip. It's a one-way road, because racism, not bigotry, you can be bigoted towards any fucking group, but racism is a specific tool of white supremacy, right? It's a subset of bigotry, but it's a carved out tool specifically designed for the advancement of white supremacy. Everybody can be bigoted, everybody can be prejudiced, but white people are the ones who are racist, because it's not just, oh, I don't like that black guy, or, oh, I don't like it because he's got his pants down, or, oh, I don't like it because he says words differently. It's all that shit and more. You know, I think I mentioned it in the previous video. There was a law in Texas about sagging pants. That shouldn't be fucking allowed. That should not, sagging pants should not give cause for the police to fucking harass black people. Sure, most people who wore saggy pants were black people, but because there were other people who wore saggy pants that were not black, therefore it wasn't targeted at blacks, but no, it fucking was. And that's the thing with this, recent judgment issue with the fucking overturning of Article 2 and discrimination or race-based shit. And it's just like, oh, okay, now the people in Louisiana can't have a fucking Democratic senator or representatives because, first of all, partisan gerrymandering is still allowed. The fuck? How is that a thing? So one hopes, and I've mailed in my ballot. It took me like 3 days to do most of the work. It took about 8 hours total, but it was a lot of work. And I was even getting kind of like exhausted and starting to want to just throw bubbles in. But I did it, and I voted on all the things because there's no fucking way I could here's part of the problem with the idea also of just going to the polls day of. Los Angeles had, just my area of Los Angeles had 20 something choices, right? 20 different things to vote on. Some of them, like the governor's race, which I think they called the forest ballot or something like that, whatever. I can't remember exactly what it was called. There's 30 people running for governor. And half of that for lieutenant governor. So what did I do? I basically started ticking off anybody who was Republican. I was like, all right, Katie Porter, you're going to hang on. I might vote for you. I started looking into some other people. I find out about Niffy Raman and how in actuality we probably might want to get her. Oh no, that was for LA mayor. See, mayor also has 15 people. I think I voted for Katie. I can't remember. That's the thing. I don't remember who I voted for in the governor's race. I tried voting for the best possible candidate, and she was the one that stuck out to me the most. And, I've seen her work, and I've seen what she does and how she, approaches things. So if she ended up being governor, that'd be really fascinating, to be honest. Because she is very anti-billionaire. When she brings out that white board, man. So, just the fact that all those choices there, people would become so easily overwhelmed if they hadn't done any of their kind of homework. They were just jumping up onto the line day of. And so now it's just and you can't, a lot of places you can't bring your phone out to look stuff up because you can't take photos and stuff like that. And so if you're not prepared when you go vote, then you're not making a very good judgment call. And so you're just dropping dots wherever. And in essence, you end up voting for the people you're most likely to hear about. You're voting for the name that pops up. And that is problematic because we shouldn't have voters do that. We need to have voters look into who's on the ballot, look into the measures that are on the ballots. I voted for all this stuff that taxes us even more so because I don't give a fuck. Especially the hotels. They didn't like that. There's hotel-related taxes and shit. And, it's just people want to bitch and moan about, LA infrastructure, for instance. Well, part of that is where that money's supposed to be going, but then they don't want to fucking pay the taxes for it. And I'm just I want to fucking strangle you. But, going, again, back to the pop culture detective, the reason I brought it up in the first place, is because, he has really good videos that talk about this kind of stuff. And I'm I don't remember watching Dirty Dancing. If I did, I remember nothing about it, so I should probably rewatch it. Because apparently it is a rather sensuous film in the way that, it's a sex-positive film in the way that it goes about things. But it's also, got the it's got the subplot dealing with abortion of the one character, and the fact that, he even shows a scene where, this one dude's got this, really well-used Ayn Rand book, and it's probably The Fountainhead. I don't remember seeing it, but it's like the book every fucking Ayn Rand simp fucking wants me to read. I'm like, no. I am not going to be a selfish fucking asshole. Fuck that noise. That's basically what she wants you to do. It's basically a cult. It just doesn't have the organization of a cult. And it doesn't have, a leader. It doesn't have, the charismatic leader. And so, yeah, I want to watch it. I say rewatch because I think I've seen it. I don't know. I want to watch that. And I've also got The Goonies on my phone because I haven't seen The Goonies. And the reason I even thought of that was because when Stephen Colbert was doing his final show, he brought in James Brolin, who he had mentioned was part of The Goonies, not like Thanos or, other roles. And I was like, okay, I haven't seen The Goonies. Should definitely watch The Goonies. I'm pretty sure I had it downloaded on my other computer, but that one is finicky at best, and so I don't really use it that much. So yeah, got couple of things done, more or less. And then once I get the new account, the new bank account, the credit union set up, then I can try to just move everything over from Wells Fargo and not deal with them anymore. All right, it's probably close to 5. I gotta leave in about half an hour or so for this physical therapy, so have fun.